Zach, yes, finally. It's been, I think, over a year and a half since I've had you on one of my pods, and this is long overdue. What is good, dude?
Everything's going well, man. This is in 2 weeks is gonna make month 15 out in Mexico City.
I love that. I'm so jealous. You're rollerblading, you're eating tacos super cheap, and you're just living life to the fullest. I'm jealous. I'm so jealous. But what we're here, not here to talk about my jealousy of your life and your tacos skills. But you, sir, have some really, really unique insight into maybe something that most PMMs don't have. Is you do your own thing, right? You run your own business. You are a solo entrepreneur, but that doesn't mean you're exempt from product launches. And you had a product launch last year. You and I were chatting about this a little bit earlier, and you had some really hard lessons that you learned through that whole process. So what I want to do is unpack that a little bit, kind of get the backstory of what happened there, what you assumed or what you thought was going to happen. And then the back half of this, we're just going to rock it on like, hey, here's some few tangible things that you personally took away from that, what you're using for what's coming up next. And I don't want to spill the beans unless you want to. And then kind of like, hey, this is what all of us PMMs live as and live through with almost every launch, it feels like. It's not like a plan to you?
Yeah, it sounds like a plan.
Yeah. All right, man. Tell me a little about this launch and kind of where you started at.
So let's talk about it. So like back in October, we launched Scope and Sequence, and now it's focused on use case pages. 12K invested, and 30 days later, there was no pipeline came in. And so when that happened, it was a hard lesson, Adam. Like, just be real. Like, like you put a lot of effort into it. You do a huge marketing campaign, you do a lot of research in this, and then it flops. So in that moment, and not to make a story out of it, because it is tough. It is really hard. But when I came out of that, it really sat down and said, well, what's going on? Like, what are the signals here? Because I was saying, oh, this is so valuable. This is so needed. People need clear use cases. But when I was having these interviews and these conversations, the biggest objection I was hearing was that, oh, well, AI can build that for us. AI can build that for us. AI can build that for us. And it's fair. That's a very valid point. And we can all agree with that. AI can build use case pages. So what requires unique expertise of some Yahoo like myself to come in and say, hey, I can help build this for you.
But that's interesting to hear, because now, and I've been going through interview processes, right, of that more than companies I care to think about. But one of the big things is like, we need use case pages. And so what's changed from back then to now to maybe you were ahead of your time? It almost feels like by about 6 to 9 months. What do you think? Why do you think that is? I know you're heavily invested in understanding AI and how to use that to further product marketing as a whole along.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I was talking to Scott Ward, and we're having like a really fun conversation about this, and it's like unrelated. It's that he was jogging with a friend, and a friend was like, saw another peer training and for a marathon. And he's like, oh, I can do that. I can train for him. Like, you can, but why aren't you? It's the same argument coming with AI. It's like, we can build that AI. It's like, you can, but why haven't you? And it really minimizes the process and effort that really goes into the. And I think once we go into that, we realize, oh my gosh, the complexity. Here are 3 things that came up from my research so far. Why AI workflows are so hard from a non-technical piece. 1, 50-step process is very overwhelming. First getting started, it's like, the reason why you want to do this is to simplify your effort. But if you go in and you're like, here's 50 steps of how to do it, like, I don't have the time. Like this, like, how do I approach this? Some people will do it, but for a lot of us, that's scary. The second piece is that there's a lot of tools in the market today. It's like going into a weight room for the first time and you see bench press, dumbbell, squat rack, elliptical machine, like pull-up bar. And you're like, where do I start? Without a clear process of like what your workout should look like, it's really hard to know where to tackle first. And then goes into the last piece is that who's documenting this work? Again, going back to the exercise piece, anybody can train for a marathon, but if you're not tracking your progress, you're not tracking workouts, then like, how do you know that you're progressing? How do you know what areas to focus at? One thing I've observed that on the best performing AI teams, this is the tracking of like why my offer flopped, but this is going to pivot back to why AI is now working for organizations that are implementing this is that they have one person that's owning this process and that's documenting, that's figuring out like, hey, like, what are the right tools we should be using? What processes and how do we like get other people on board? That's like when you have a clear ownership of who's doing the work, that's what typically works to make AI adopted. But it goes back to our original point of like why teams can't get AI to build their use case pages because they never had a process to begin with on how to get it done.
Cool. I think that's good. I think that also shows the maturity of understanding AI in 6 months, 9 months. It's wild how quick stuff evolves these days. But you also did a good amount, because I remember this, of basically VOC work, like market insight work ahead of doing all this. Do you feel that there was just a misunderstanding functionally of what AI could actually do and using that as a filler for saving some dollars on the bottom line?
Yeah, it's I think one thing I took away from like my offer flop is you can really get down to the essence of like how things work even more so now. And I think because it's like we see it all the time on LinkedIn. We hear people share these wins like, oh, like I got this massive transformation like with AI too as well. But it's like, okay, but what are you doing with that? It's like me saying like, yo, I've been taking Ozempic for 2 months and I lost like 60 pounds. Okay, great, Zach. Like, what have you been doing with that? Have you been running marathons? Have you like joined like competitions. So that's what it's like. We see the visual results of AI, but like I think the problem we're running into now is that what are you doing with that? So when I've been having these conversations with some teams who are in this space, it's like, okay, you want to use AI for personal development, but like, what are you looking to do with this information? What is the goal that you're trying to achieve? Like, what is the process you're looking at? And more often than not, they're not they're not trying the AI building piece is not the problem. The problem is talking with their CEO or the VP of product and going back and saying, hey, like, what is the process of what are we measuring? What are we achieving? And more often than it goes back to AI being like, well, let AI tell us what we should do. And you've heard this before. Like if you put in like you're getting a generic process, you're going to get generic results without us thinking about what we need. And AI is really good at asking those questions, but if we are not willing to take that time to think about that process, then the outcome that we get will not be unique to us.
The unique stuff, slop, the general all likeness. But I think to that point too, what we've seen, and I don't think we're through it yet, is that these mass amounts of reduction of forces, quote unquote, but it's hitting prompt marketers hard. I think to
Yeah.
your point right there, you're calling it out. It's like you're substituting the insight and the expertise of product marketers in favor of short-term generic, right? Oh, we have this on
Yeah.
paper. We could train a model. We could do this and save ourselves just a junk
Yeah.
load of money. I think we'll see that come to fruition maybe in 6 months, 12 months of when you'll see
Yeah.
hopefully a wave of PMMs being rehired, I hope.
Yeah.
But to that point, also like I'm finding the more and more I see things, it's like we need this as companies state, but like the why, and you highlighted that, man, the why, especially around personas. Now you took quite a bit of learnings from
Mhm.
that launch, and you say
Yeah.
failed. I'm gonna say, you know what, it was Rev
Yeah.
one, it was his version one for learnings, but
Mhm.
you specifically like came through and you're applying some things to some upcoming stuff you got cooking, right? What
Yeah.
are your favorite 2 or 3 things that you learned in that process that you're now taking and saying, oh gosh, I'm doing this different. I'm doing this better, that,
Yeah.
PMM could stand to listen to and learn.
Yeah. Well, first things first is that when the first launch, I was so fixated on like I had blinders on being like, I hear people need use case pages. So I'm gonna build out the process and I'm gonna go out there and put it out there. We make fun of product managers. I was thinking like I was thinking like, oh, I hear this signal, I build it. I want to try it out in the public. Oh, this is like a nice to have, but I don't see like the problem that's really solving. So from that lesson now it's like I did things in reverse. It really started, yeah, I started a conversation of like, what are the signals that we're picking up? And the biggest signal that was here was that AI workflows are hard. And that's ironic because it goes to the second point is that if AI is designed to make our jobs easier, why are we saying building the workflows are hard? Like that doesn't, it didn't sound right for me. It's like saying like, exercise like makes our lives easier, but the physical process of exercising is hard. Well, why is this hard? And it comes back into the third point of like what we mentioned here earlier, Adam, is that why is exercise hard? Well, exercise is hard because one, typically people go in with like no clear goal. If there's a goal, it's like, I'm going to lose 20 pounds. Great. You lose 20 pounds. What's next? Sometimes people rebound. Other times people keep going. What's the difference between those two groups? Okay. The group that rebounds, maybe they didn't have a clear process. Maybe they were popping Ozempic. All right, great. But maybe the group that rebounds, it's like they start developing habits. So maybe they're like, hey, I'm going to put my shoes by my door before I wake up in the morning. Pre-work, creatine, like my routines, and my workouts, training for stuff like that. So not having a clear goal, but have a clear intention. This goes into step like the third piece, like have a clear intention. When you have a clear intention of it, it's like, what am I looking to become in this process? That's going to give you more lasting. The second piece on the back is, okay, what is my process? Right now is that I was like kind of thinking about this of why AI workflows are so hard is that, okay, like, all right, like what is the process? If like I want to get like, stronger legs because I know by having stronger legs, it's like, it's an insurance against falling, okay, what am I doing to do that? Like how long is my work? Like what so is my time? What are the reps and sets I'm going to go to? So I was like, what's my reps? Here are these micro decisions coming out and these questions I got to ask myself. But like when you ask like a team of being like, okay, you want to use AI to create your, use case pages. What are the steps that you're thinking of this? Like, how are you approaching this? What is the goal? More often than not, like we haven't had the time to think about it. That's why AI is so alluring because it gives us the time to do because it's going to do it for us. But if you don't have a clear process and you throw AI into the mix, you might be creating more trouble for what it's worth. And that goes to the last point now, is that now that you have this, like you're doing everything now, you don't have a process now, you might be putting in more work than AI than you intended because AI was designed to save you time. But now you're putting in more work, you're putting in more effort, and then you come out of that and you say, well, this doesn't work for us. Like, we tried it, it didn't work for us. Well, because it goes back to what we said before. If you don't have a clear intention of what you're trying to achieve and you don't have a process of like, what is like the guardrails we're working against, this is why this process gets hard. And it happens to us for exercise. It happens to us when we're like planning our finances. Like what we're seeing today is a reflection of our normal behaviors.
Man, yeah, it's weird to think that it's been 2 or 3 years now since AI tools have kind of exploded the scene. We're still thinking about those shortcuts, right? But it's the habits, like you called out. For me, I don't put my shoes by my bed. Usually, it's my hat, so I can avoid having to do my hair.
I see Dimitri gave you. You're the second person rocking Dimitri's hat. I hit him up. I was like, "Where's my hat, bro?"
Yo, he didn't want to ship it to Mexico, man. I'll tell him to don't cheap out on that.
I'm just gonna keep harassing him through different channels.
That's what I did. I actually literally brought him on the podcast. I was like, dude, where's the hat? But to that point, it's like you bring up such a good point. So like there's the AI usage as a whole. Cool. It's made to make our lives easier. Your learnings from the whole process was that in this case, like we talk about, what you were focused on selling is effectively help with your use case pages. But there's a lot of points where I could argue probably a lot of companies that don't have the base work done, an excellent or good base work done. There's no clear understanding of what or why we were going to have these use cases for. I would probably argue and what you found in your research. But then also, like, it's what's the output? And so it comes down to, for lack of better words, basically, checkbox product marketing at that point, where it's like, oh no, my boss said I got to have it, or like, I know we have to have it, but we don't know strategically why. We don't know how to do this well because we lack the insight. And it becomes a mess, right? Zach, from your point of view, if there's product marketers listening to this who I know I can identify from launches in my past of stuff like this, what are the 1 to 2 quick tips that you could leave with them to think, very tactically, but strategically as well, but critically, ultimately, about their next product launch when it comes to, hey, assessing and avoiding some of the things that you had to learn effectively the hard way?
Yeah, like I don't know if there's any like tactical pieces that I could share to like go through it. I think one is that like I was talking to Ryan Sorley. It's like if the signals are not, the work is not showing up, that you got to pivot. Like you gotta I know for a lot of us we call like our product launches a baby, but like maybe we shouldn't do that because you wouldn't abandon your baby if things don't work out. But like you have to. I think one lesson I took away is coming from a place of non-attachment, of being like, okay, like, did this work? Yes or no? In this case, no, it didn't work out. So when that happened, it's then second is how do we take our emotions to the process? So like, I think like the second thing is that like really like, because I'm gonna like, funny enough, I'm a pretty emotional person. And so like, it's like, I get very passionate. But for me, I learned is that, okay, I have to really take what out of this to kind of sit back and just, stare at that, like look underneath the mattress and just see like, okay, like what's underneath here that I need to really face and hold up to. And in that case, I think it was like talking to people that I was actually looking to serve. So I think having those conversations, I didn't want to step further. I was just like, hey, I'll give you like a $50 Visa gift card if you want to that me. Because it's like, it got very valuable. And I just said, hey, I have 4 questions for you. I'm really trying to understand like how you approach this work today. How are you measuring this? Where does this piece come into play? And yeah, and funny enough, it has led to a redirection of being like, okay, leaning into the obstacle. So if someone tells you something is hard, I think this is my bonus third takeaway. If someone tells you something is hard, that's a really positive signal to explore what it is. Because like I said at the beginning of the conversation, Adam, is that AI is designed to make our lives easier. But if we are coming out and saying that, hey, building an AI workflow is really hard, that's a signal worth exploring as to why that is. Because it's like exercise. Is that, hey, like exercise is beneficial for us, but me going through the process is hard. Well, why is that? What are the blockers and what could potentially be designed to make it easier to do so?
Stop it. Man, I think that last bit alone is going to be the LinkedIn sound clip for obvious reasons. But I think you bring up such a good point of like tying it back together is if it's hard, it might be, and more times probably worth exploring and doing to some capacity. Yeah. Zach, my man, there's so many more good nuggets that I know we've shared in text messages where you've helped me through things, and hopefully me vice versa. But where can people find you if that message resonates with them, if they want to learn more, or especially if they want to follow and see what you've got cooking coming up next?
Yeah, easiest one is just like follow me on LinkedIn. That's how I'll be talking to as well. Also, like I said, like if you like what you're hearing more of, like I built the research report from this past month of March, so there's going to be more of a monthly cadence going on that. So if you go to SEN, it will take you directly to the you can see the report. It's free. It's what I've been using to kind of learn more about this space. It can make it really into what are the right ways of how to approach this too. So I would say just start there. And if you are really excited about like AI workflows, what I've been telling teams is that like you've got to learn how to build it out yourself. You got to get your hands dirty with it. It doesn't have to be perfect. You just literally like you can download cloud code. You can get a free account of Zapier, but like find ways to get yourself familiar with it and ask yourselves these 2 questions. Like, what is it that I want to build that reflects my day to day? And what does that process look like? And if you can figure that out, you have 80% of the way.
Perfect. And what I'll do is I'll drop the link to your LinkedIn profile in the show notes. That way people have that to go stalk you in all the best ways. Zach, my man, this has been incredible. Thank you for being so generous to drop by and share. What I argue is not something that every product marketer ever wants to talk about. It's vulnerable, but I think the lessons that you took from it and are able to share, that's incredibly generous, man. Thank you.
Appreciate you, Adam. Thank you for having me on.
All right. Have a good one.